Let me ask you something. How do you feel about giving when money feels tight? Because for most people, that's exactly when giving feels impossible. Like you have to wait until you have more before you can give anything away. Welcome back. This is day 15 of your Money Mindset Reset. Yesterday, we talked about gratitude and specifically about learning to notice I'm okay, even when things are uncertain. Today, we're taking that one step further because once you can honestly say, I'm okay, something else becomes possible. You start to see that you still have something to give, even if it looks nothing like what you imagined. Before we go any further, I want to be clear about what I'm not saying. This is not about giving more than you have. It's about stretching yourself financially to prove a point. It's not about guilt or obligation or keeping up with what anyone else is doing. If giving creates genuine hardship for you right now, that's real. And this conversation isn't asking you to ignore that. Giving from a place of depletion isn't generosity, it's self abandonment dressed up as virtue. And there's a difference, and it truly, truly matters. What I am saying is this: money is not the only thing you have to give. And most of us have been thinking about it far too narrowly. We've been conditioned to think of giving almost exclusively in financial terms: donations, charity, writing a check. But giving is really about transferring something of value from yourself to someone else. And value takes lots of forms: time, effort, skill, knowledge, creativity, presence, attention. These are all forms of abundance. And most of us have access to at least some of them, even in the seasons when money is genuinely limited. The question isn't how much can I give, but what do I actually have to offer right now? And I want to show you what that looks like in practice. When my kids were younger, we volunteered regularly at an animal shelter, week after week, showing up to clean cages, feed the animals, give them attention and care. That alone was meaningful. Consistent, reliable presence matters, whether the recipient is human or not. But there was one situation that really showed me what giving looked like when you get creative with it. There was an older woman in our community who was caring for a group of outdoor cats, like a lot of them. And winter was coming, and she didn't have the resources, financially or physically, to build what those cats needed to stay safe through the cold. So we decided to help. But we didn't go out and spend a lot of money. We went to the Habitat for Humanity Restore and asked around in our local community, like Facebook groups, for leftover materials. We pieced things together from what was available, and then we built a shelter. With our own hands, my kids learned how to shingle a roof that day. We spent time figuring it out together, problem solving, adjusting, and making it work. And then when it was done, they were genuinely so proud of what they had made. The woman we built it for was incredibly grateful. But what stayed with me wasn't her reaction. It was the realization that that entire experience had nothing to do with how much money we had. It had everything to do with what we were willing to give. We gave time, effort, creativity, physical labor, problem solving, and we involved the kids in every part of it, which meant we were also giving them an experience of what it feels like to show up for someone with whatever you have available. And that's the thing about giving that most people miss. When you believe, I don't have enough, your instinct is to close off and hold tight, to protect what little you feel you have. And that scarcity mindset, which we talked about all the way back in day 2, doesn't just affect how you feel, it affects what you see and what you're willing to do. And when you can honestly say, I may not have everything right now, but I still have something, something else opens up. You move from a posture of protection to participation. And that shift from I'm trying to get by to someone who actually has something to offer changes how you carry yourself. It changes how you make decisions. It changes what you believe is possible for you. Giving creates meaning beyond money. And when money feels uncertain, meaning is one of the most stabilizing things that you can access. Abundance isn't a bank balance, it's a posture. And giving in whatever form you can right now is one of the fastest ways to find it. What's one non financial thing you have to give right now? A skill, some time, knowledge, a talent, or just your presence? Just one thing. I want to see how much is actually in this room that we don't count because it doesn't have a dollar sign on it. So let's answer this directly. How do you give when you feel like you don't have enough? First, you redefine what giving means. You release the idea that it has to be financial to count. Some of the most meaningful giving has nothing to do with money. Second, you start small and specific, not grand gestures. One thing this week that costs you something other than money. Your Saturday morning, your skill set, your attention, your follow through on something you said you would do for someone. And third, you notice how it feels. Because this is the important part that actually rewires the scarcity mindset. When you give something and the world doesn't end, when you discover that sharing what you have doesn't leave you with less of what matters, that's data. And your brain files it. And over time, it loosens the grip of there's never enough. So go ahead and grab that journal. We've got 3 prompts today. First, what do I have to give right now? Write freely. Don't limit yourself to money. Think about time, skills, energy, knowledge, experience, presence, creativity. And what do you actually have access to? Second, 3 ways I already give that I don't usually count. Because I'd be willing to bet you're already doing more than you're giving yourself credit for. Third, one specific way I can give something this week. Keep it simple, doable, something that costs you something real, like time, effort, or attention, but doesn't create hardship. It doesn't have to be big, it just has to be real. Giving doesn't reduce what you have. If done thoughtfully, it reminds you of what you have. It reminds you that you are someone with something to offer, not just someone waiting until they have enough to participate. And that reminder is worth so much more than the dollar amount on anything you could write a check for. You have more control than you think. You've got this. I'll see you tomorrow for day 16, where we talk about everything we've talked about with giving and then flip it completely. Because receiving is its own skill. And a lot of us, it's actually the harder one. I'll see you then.